All right, we are live. I have no idea if anybody showed up because I didn't really share it or anything. But if the past has been any indication, I have a feeling like as we continue to do our thing, like we're gonna see people show up. So what is this? This is the IRS After Party. This is where Cory and I we wrapped the indie review show. And now we're basically doing a live stream where we just talk and shoot the crap and talk about the past episode and all that kind of stuff, and probably work on our art projects, which I'm overdue for it because I haven't been able to touch art all day. So yeah, how's it going, Cory?
It's good. Yeah.
All right, and we got two people watching. Woohoo! Yay.
Like thoroughly creeped out now. So you've done your job well.
Yeah, I will say it's funny because so we had to move a family member. My wife ended up doing the moving. I was watching my kid like on the end of like, because it's her sister who's going to be like temporarily living with us for a little bit. She's looking for a job out here, but had to kind of move her stuff here. And so while that was happening, I was like watching Ben, which is something I'm not as used to. Like I watch Ben, but I've never had to like I have had to, but not as often, like walk him through remote schooling. And so it's funny because I'm like walking a 7-year-old through remote schooling, and then I'm taking furious notes on like this brutally disgusting like horror comic that I love, but I'm like, I don't want my 7-year-old to get a glimpse of. So it's like I'm in the corner just like, okay, taking notes. And then I'm like, okay, you need to sit still, Ben. Like that kind of thing. Just back and forth. That was an interesting thing. And then the rest of my day was spent like we had the U-Haul. We unpacked the U-Haul. It wasn't too bad. It's just like it's moving one person from like a room. So it's not as bad as like moving a whole apartment. And now we have all this stuff strewn about here, and we had to grab a bunch of junk that we've been wanting to get rid of in the garage because we have a U-Haul for a second. Yeah. And then we went to like this giant waste disposal thing. And I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but it's pretty fun. It's like you take these giant items and just throw them out on a big pile of junk. And luckily, I found out like locally, and I think this is most cities, but I'm new to homeowning, so I didn't know this, but it's like locally you can do that for free. So we get like 2 vouchers a year. Yeah.
That must be a California thing. I've got to pay every time I go to the dump.
Usually you do, but they said if you give your residential address in this city, at least, you get 2 a year where you're allowed to do it. I think it's because we live in a desert, and so the temptation, it's probably to like keep people away from the temptation to just drive out in the middle of nowhere and drop stuff off, which would be terrible for the environment. But still, right. I mean, people do it. So, and if they're going to save a couple $100, like, so I think that's a good deterrent. So that's what I think. But anyhow, that's been my day. Is that moving heavy furniture and then chucking giant pieces of metal and heavy objects that we need to get rid of for like 7 years. Yeah. And so finally, and then reading Black Holes. So yeah, it's been an interesting day because my head's just been like, I don't even know how to navigate talking about that because I love that book, but it's so creepy. And like I kind of like that about it. It's so ominous and creepy, but anyhow, so I'm glad that like I felt a sense of relief having finished it. I'm like, I got to pass that on to Cory.
Right. Thank you for that.
Oh, nice. And then Holly in the chats, we're joined by Holly, who you guys should check out. Holly Brown, really good art. Where I live, we have a recycling center that has something similar where you can throw furniture, batteries, and other waste as long as you show a power bill. Wow. That's cool. I only get 2. So, Cory, we need to move where Holly lives. And then
I think
Gary said after party.
One of the reasons I don't have that is because I pay almost no taxes on the state level because I live in a place where they're just like, offended by the idea of government.
That is fair.
So,
Cory, I want to talk investments. But I want to hear your thoughts first, because you had something you were really like worked up about, and I want to hear it. And I hope Black Hole didn't take it all out of you.
Oh, you want to hear? You want me to get angry before?
Should we work into the anger? Let's work into the anger. Let's
I don't
talk.
know. I'm trying to
for 2
decide
seconds.
if I just rage for just a couple minutes, if I can just leave that, and then yeah,
that's true. Maybe venting and just getting it out. But is it something that's just going to lead to more anger? Like I want to hear what you're angry about. Also, it'll give me an opportunity to get my panel started. So.
I'll tell you what I'm angry
before
about.
we get into it, what are you working on? So people know when they're watching and stuff like that. What are you working on right now?
This is
that's so cool.
The arm that is going to swing out from the side and write the credits of my animation. So if you go to I always put this pen in my mouth as I'm trying to say something. And then no one.
You're like, so if you go to
exactly.
Like, I tried to type that in. It just takes me to like weird sites that are strangely reminiscent of Black Hole, the comic.
For some reason, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, but if you go to
Chris K was saying vent party. See, you've got support.
All right.
How's it going, Chris? I will say, if you guys are watching this, make sure you go to the IRS agency site after this and watch our review of Black Hole. It's awesome. Okay. Yeah. Go, Cory.
All right. So here's the thing, right? This I made
so cool.
Wacom. Okay. And so you can go see that and hear the music and comment on it and tell everybody how amazing it is, because I like it when my sponsors give me stuff and then they see that like that was worth the investment. And I don't get that many sponsors, but like Wacom's like a big get for me. So
that's a big get for most people, you know.
Yeah,
that's in the art world. That's like at my work, we got to do one thing with like Adobe, and I was really pumped, like because it was like the whole Creative Suite as like a set of pens, and I was like, I need those pens, like, yeah. So my point is like that was at my work. Like if this is something you bagged on your own, that's really badass, you know. So
thanks.
You should be proud of it.
I'm pretty excited about it. I'm trying to be more authentically positive about my artwork, because I typically hate everything that I do or whatever, but like that's starting to kind of ebb a little bit. So anyway, and Chris is saying those are looking cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Chris Kawagua of Sketchboy01 and also Chris Kawagua. So and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. My brain, Kitten Rivet as well on Instagram with his wife, like, and soon to be future mother of his child. So go check that out. Anyhow, go ahead.
All right, so here's my rant. I'll just do it fast because I think it's like super boring for everybody. But
I'll be the boring barometer.
You'll be the judge of whether it's boring or not.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm a good judge of that though.
Where's this pen? Hold on.
So while you're looking for that pen, I will just say I am working on the 5-page pitch for my literary agent that I've been working on for the last like week and a half or 2 weeks. I think it's over 2 weeks now. It's probably 3 weeks. But I'm almost done. I have 3 panels left. So I'm hoping to like knock out a panel in this time that we discuss what you're enraged about.
Okay, so I want to get this out of the way because I think there's more interesting things to talk about. So I made these things, and I'll just show everybody. Let me just save this. I'll show you the different things. So this is just going to be credits. So Wacom credits. All right, and then let me open up. So I have these different artboards. I have all these different things. And I like doing Instagram carousels, right? So I like having it so like you got the main thing, and then you can slide and you can see like different aspects of it, or zoom in on it, or see the making of, or in this case, like when I was like making weird faces at my camera while we were having a conversation, I was trying to do that on the sly, and anyway, we started crying. Anyway, so me being a weirdo, it's all in there. So I export that. That takes it takes some time, and I break it all up, and I time everything, and I do all that stuff. So you've got the different cameras and everything, and each one of these is like its own video that's being exported and all that jazz. Is that your timer going off again?
Yeah, hang on. Let me go find it. Continue though.
So then the thing I hate about Instagram is I can't upload from my desktop to Instagram. So I can't go from my desktop to Instagram. So I have to go from like my iPad or my phone, right? But my desktop is a PC. And PCs and Macs don't talk to each other for some stupid reason that would be easily fixed, but they're trying to just, I get it. There's a profit incentive. I understand.
Oh, see, is that your? I heard.
Sorry, that was my text message. My
I love it.
2-year-old pooped in his sleep, which he's been doing recently, which is super fun. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I got to get this off. Now, the old way that I did this is so convoluted and stupid, but it worked. And I had become like Stockholm Syndrome, in love with this process because it worked and I was fine with it. And I forgot how dumb it is that I had to do this stupid thing in the first place, right? And so the old way of doing it was I would upload it from my computer. I would upload it to Google Drive. And then I can't get in the app on my phone and download it into my Photos app from Google Drive because they just don't allow that for whatever reason, because that's stupid, right? So what I would have to do is I would have to open it up on my iPad in the Google Drive app and then airdrop it from my iPad to my phone, because I can't airdrop it from my desktop to my phone. And then I would airdrop it and then it would end up in the Photos app. And then I could go from the Photos app to Instagram. This is the stupid series of ridiculous hoops that I jumped through just to get something that I made up to Instagram. It is infuriatingly stupid, but it worked. And I got actually kind of fast at it. And then it got even a little bit quicker because I got a MacBook Pro from work. And so then I could just kick it over to my laptop and then kick it over to my phone, which was faster. Then they updated the iOS 2 weeks ago and it broke that. And so now every time I would try to airdrop it, it would airdrop over and it would say, file was unable to open. Would you like to save it to your files? And Files is this stupid app inside of, okay, good. Simple transfer app. I'm going to look that up for certain.
Great advice, Holly. Thank you.
Leave that up for a minute because I'm going to take a picture of it. This is how old school I am. I'm going to photograph my screen so that I can just look at that later.
And while Cory is doing that, I want to just mention the problems that Cory's talking about are going to only get worse because Mac is even moving away from Intel chips. They're going to be the latest version of the iMacs are Apple chips, which I actually think is cool. And that'll tie into a conversation later.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? So then I upgraded. So then I updated my phone. I was like, they've got to patch this. This is so dumb, right? Because I'm exporting in H.264, which is an older codec that is an Apple codec. So I'm exporting in an Apple video codec, and it should just transfer over, but it doesn't transfer over. So then I update my phone, and then it transfers over just fine. And that's how I got the first animation up last week. And I was like, okay, great. We figured out that problem. So then last night at 4:30 in the morning, before I went to bed, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get all this ready. I export it. I'll upload it to Drive, and then when I wake up tomorrow, I'll get it going. So I wake up a couple hours before my wife's doctor's appointment, which is 30 miles away. And I was like, I'll meet you there. And so then I spent 90 minutes just trying to get this thing to work, and it won't do it, even though so then I update my phone again, which for some reason took 45 minutes to update my phone this time for whatever reason. And then it still didn't work after the fact. So then I'm Googling all kinds of stuff. There's this this new H.265 codec, which they're like, if you use this, you won't have to downgrade to H.264. And then I'm on the chat with Apple support just because I hit him on Twitter. And I was like, listen, this is freaking ridiculous. I'm not an idiot. I am a power user of this type of thing. If anybody understands what's going on with technology and whatnot, I am one of those people. I've always been on the bleeding edge of that type of stuff, right? And that doesn't mean I'm I know everything or that I'm better than anybody or whatever. It's just that if I don't get it, then how do your users understand this that are like the average user? Because Apple for the longest time has marketed themselves as like, it just works. Just
it does if you just have
plug
Apple.
stuff in and it just works. Well, guess what? It doesn't just freaking work, because I can't get your product to talk to your product. And it's driving me nuts, because all I want to do is I want to go from my PC to Instagram. I can't go from my PC to Instagram. I have to go from my PC to my phone to Instagram, but I can't go from my PC to my phone. I have to go from my PC to my iPad to my phone to Instagram. And then that broke. And so then I couldn't get it at all. And I get it. And so all I said is I just said, listen, I don't want to explain the convoluted cluster mess that is going on in this process that I've developed, because you guys are so freaking ridiculous that you won't have normal things like getting files to transfer. That's a normal thing. I want to be able to.
It used to be really simple. Like you used to be able to actually just drag them off your iPhone. Like when you plug in your iPhone, it would read like an external almost. Right. And so you could like literally just drag files onto your desktop or whatever and copy them that way.
And here's the other infuriating.
They changed that, and I don't know why, because I agree.
I think they changed it because of safety, because if you have like root access to stuff, you can put nefarious things on it. And
that's true. And like one proof in concept of that is like if you look at iOS and Android phones, they have a lot of hacking issues.
Right. And so I understand the security of things and stuff like that, but I'm not talking about like files. Like obviously I don't want the ability to have like exes and zip files. And all I want is video files in an Apple codec to be able to be transferred from Apple products to Apple products. Or even better, if I could just call down the tech gods and then have them give me one thing, is just let me have a transfer between a PC and an iOS. That's all I want. Just a little simple thing. I don't care if I have to plug something in. I don't care if I have to do a little dance. I just want to get the freaking file off of my computer and put it on my phone. It is insane. Or
that's totally true.
Or Instagram. For the love of all that is holy, just admit that you are a giant now and that you're no longer this tiny little mobile app, and give me the desktop version that does the same things as the app version.
Oh, I will agree with that 100%. Like having to upload like a long form video to Instagram, it sucks because you can only do that through that outsource thing that does their video hosting, you know?
Oh, IGTV.
Yeah. But you can't actually just do like an Instagram post, and that's really obnoxious. And like, really, honestly, I wish that could change a little bit. Although I love Instagram as a social media model.
They give you the ability to do Sprout Social or Hootsuite. They have API hooks that will allow you to take things from the desktop and even schedule them and do that. But they don't allow you to do carousels. Mm-hmm. So you can do one image or one video. But I like to do carousels, and so I can't even third party into the desktop situation. It's just like it's not hubris, the audacity and the pride of these tech companies thinking that that there's one way to do it and then that's the way they want it to be done. It's like, I know, but I'm not the normal average user. I'm not taking selfies of myself at the beach. I'm not taking like pictures of my lunch. I want to show people what I'm making on the stuff that I'm making it on. Just give me that type of, and so what I did is
real quick, sorry. Chris was also chiming in on the AirDrop thing, saying he can't figure out why his AirDrop only shows up sometimes between his own devices. It seems completely random. I totally experienced that, where like for the vlogs that I'm doing, I'll just edit them real quick, like the vloggins things that I do. It's like these daily posts. And it's like I'll edit them super quick on iMovie and then just AirDrop them to my computer and then upload them if they're long, or if not, I'll just upload directly to YouTube from my phone. You know,
I'll tell you what
downside.
I think Tim Cook is sitting there with a little switch and he just kind of flicks it on and off. I don't think he has anything else to do because they haven't invented anything of any value in the last 5 to 7 years.
I'll say this, like those
and it works.
Yeah, but those tower computers look pretty badass is all I'm saying. I mean, they're like $7,000, but
$4,000 more than they need to cost.
That's true. Although I don't know if you've noticed this, the iMac prices have gone down again. Like they're not quite as exorbitant as they used to
Sure.
be. So it's pretty much like a couple $100 difference between that
Well,
and
and
buying like a
here's the
decent
other thing
PC.
that's infuriating, right? They've like doubled or tripled the price of their phones in the last couple of years. I'm paying as much for
their
a
phones
phone
are
as I do for a laptop computer, and yet it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the phone prices are absurd. And then, actually, honestly, this is going to be like an old man tech rant now, because that is one of the things that gets my goat is the fact that they've changed the model for phones so that you're forced to lease. And I'm like, so you literally force your customers to make the financially most imprudent decision you can make ever for an item, because now I'm on the hook for the protection of your crappy device, and I don't even get the benefit of owning it when I'm done. Like it's just really, so I get the benefit of paying for the wear, and you get the benefit of like, I hate the whole leasing model. I hate it with cars. I feel like it preys on people in poverty. And I hate it with phones, and now it's mandatory with phones. It's like if they started doing that with cars, I'd be I don't know how to deal with that being forced to lease. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, I stole your rant and converted it to anti-leasing.
I'm fine with anti-leasing. So that was my thing. So here's my new.
That is frustrating though, and they should be able to communicate with multiple devices. They shouldn't be able to make like devices that only work for their devices. Like if
I'm gonna pay more than a couple $100 for a phone, right? Which I have, right? If I'm going to do that, it better freaking be able to just move photos and videos around. It's the most basic thing. I don't care about VPN access. I don't care about remote things. I just want to be able to make a video and put that on a different thing so that I can use it.
Why is there worse functionality on a modern iPhone than there was on like an iPod in like in like 2003? Like that is obnoxious, and that shouldn't be the case.
I'll tell you another thing. I have the original video iPod that I bought in 2004, and it still works. It still charges. It still has decent battery life, and I can't get it to connect to anything anymore. But I have like all the audiobooks and all the videos and it still functions. It has one stupid wheel button in the middle that is the most annoying thing on the planet to be able to navigate stuff through. But like there was no planned obsolescence back in the day. So anyway,
I will say this though, like on the planned obsolescence note, like, so here's one thing I do like about Mac. If you buy a Mac, like, and keep in mind, this is my own experience, but it's like, my last iMac lasted me about 8 years. Like without upgrades or anything, it was like a tank. And like Cory said, like, we're not like mild users. Like we're like race car drivers. We're going to be putting every bit of wear on these machines as possible, causing a lot of, just like computers aren't going to last for somebody like Cory or myself as long as they're going to last for like somebody just using it for like word processing, but it's like, I will say like they tend to have very reliable parts on their machines because of their quality control. Right. And so I will say like they tend to have a little bit more shelf life than something that's, like not Mac. The downside is because of that quality control and that restriction, they also tend to have way less upgradability, so they can become obsolete very quickly if technology shifts. So that's like the give and take with a Mac. But I will say I almost went on team not Mac. Like the last time I had to upgrade my computer, and then like when I looked into it, the like couple $100 extra for a Mac, I think it's worth it just for the
bucks. Yours was mine was over $3,000 difference between the PC that I built and the Macintosh that would do the same thing.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. But then again, also if I process like animation videos on this thing, it's just not going to process them as quickly as like a really well built PC or like a very expensive Mac, and then you're talking like it's going to be hard to compete with one of the, like, once you're dropping $8,000, like, yeah, Mac is great, you know,
sure.
like,
And if I
but,
had that would be
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, but it's for those of us who don't have like $8,000, you know, the price difference depending. But I will say I'm still like very loyal to Mac, and I do think, actually, weirdly enough, I think the new iMacs are ugly as hell. Like, I think Holly mentioned
Are they
it.
the ones Holly's talking about? I haven't seen them recently.
Well, the new iMacs are in multiple colors, and so they kind of are like, they took like the beautiful metal design and decided, like, wouldn't this be cool with pink metal? And it won't. I don't think a lot of people want to go back to the days of like the clear plastic, slightly blue toned Macs or whatever.
You mean the flavors? Are they calling them flavors again? Do you remember the flavors?
They might be. I don't know if they're hearkening back to that entirely. I will say, like,
where the iMac was like, it was just this cube with like a handle on the top, but it still weighed like 60 pounds. And you're supposed to like, look, it's portable. It's got a handle and it comes in different flavors. I love it.
It's a bit like that. The thing that sucks though about the new ones is like this is a decision that I am baffled by. So like anybody who works in art understands that like having that black edge around the screen on a Mac, like on an iMac screen, is really good for clarity of color. Like it's like one of the best colors you can have. It's why like when people are doing production art or heavy video editing, they tend to work in rooms that are really dark because, you know, the darkness like brings out the color. It gives you a better view of the color. They went with the white edge around the screen, and that is going to really be problematic when it comes to seeing color. I just, like, for me, that annoys the crap out of me. So they picked a color that would highlight and reflect the true color you're working on, and they replaced it with a color that'll absorb and desaturate and make the color less accurate on your screen, just because of their weird aesthetic. And it doesn't even aesthetically look better. But that being said, they're back down in pricing. They have an iMac Mini again that's affordable.
Oh, good.
And upgradable. They launched another tower, and that tower looks like a badass machine. Even though it's really expensive, I will say that thing looks pretty awesome and upgradable. So I still have faith in Apple, but I agree with the frustrations, especially on the phone front. Like file sharing is a huge deal when we're dealing in a world where data is like currency, you know? If you can't transfer data, that's like selling a wallet where people can't actually take their money out of it.
Yeah. But it's a really pretty wallet though.
It is, and they do make the best phones. That's the one thing I will say for Apple. Like they make the best phones. They're just really annoying, but they are like, they have the best cameras on them, at least for the price range, you know? Yeah. Maybe that's just me having a bias, but I feel like their phones, like, it's really hard to compete with what they do.
Yeah, they're good. Anyway, so that's my.
I love your rant. I agree with your rant.
Here's my new process. This is even stupider than the previous process, which was, I think, pretty stupid.
Does bluish ugly plastic is peak?
We should just have Holly jump on here.
I know. It's not a bad idea.
So here's my new process. I export it from After Effects. Then I transfer it to Google Drive, and then I download it to my files on my phone. And then I open up this app called LumaFusion, which is a video editor that is on iOS, and then I export it again from LumaFusion to my thing. So anyway, and Apple support, which they took like 10 to 15 minutes in between each answer to get back to me. So it was like a conversation that I had with them on the phone, via text all afternoon. So spread over like 4.5 hours. And the most infuriating thing was I would explain stuff because I know what they need to know. So I'd explain things, and then they would come back with an irrelevant link because they're not reading carefully. I don't I don't communicate randomly. I'm a very precise communicator.
Yeah.
So I was telling them all the things that they needed to know, and then they would like fixate on one point, send me a link because they saw a word and they have a link that mentions that word, and they're like, "Does this answer your question?" And I'm like,
okay.
Stop making me read freaking articles that have nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Dude,
just read my responses, understand the entirety of the problem, and then tell me if you're too stupid to know the answer or not. Because I don't care. If you don't know the answer, I don't know the answer either. I'm not going to get mad at you. I just don't want you to waste 4.5 hours of my afternoon while I'm at the doctor's office. It's just so that was my afternoon.
I agree with that wholeheartedly
my own solution and uploaded it.
That's one of my pet peeves about people in general is like when you read, like, I feel like, and this is going to make me sound like an old man, but I've noticed this uptick in people who don't read a full email or a full text. So you'll ask, like, a good example is like, you'll ask like a bullet pointed list of questions. Like, here's 5 questions I have. And you get a response and it's like, yes. And you're like, okay. So is that a yes to point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, or 5? Or is that just a solid yes to all of it? Or, oh, no. Yes to, yes, I need whatever for like, point 1. And it's like, but what about like all the 4 other things? Like, couldn't we cut the back and forth by just having some reading comprehension and reading the full thing?
No reading comprehension, just infuriating nothingness. I'm just at this point, I just want to try to communicate with emojis and bitmojis. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to send you stupid yellow-faced pictures of different emotions, and you can
just send hieroglyphics that they can interpret.
Just guess what's going on with my computer, because I think you'll understand that as much as you're attempting to understand what I'm actually typing out in great detail.
I will say, having had to deal with Apple a lot, the one thing that I found really helpful with them is Apple support. And so, but in order for
drastically different experiences.
Well, no. But in order for it to be at all beneficial, you have to get a human being. Like the tech, like messages and stuff, they just don't work. But I found that like if you talk to somebody like on the phone, quite often they're very helpful.
I go to Twitter because I have found all companies respond to me much more quickly if I at them on Twitter and say, "Holy crap, you guys have crapped the bed. I can't believe that you're a publicly traded company that does this type of thing. Here are the problems I'm having. This is ridiculous." Then immediately their support will come in and say, "Hey, send us a DM," because they're like, "Please stop having this conversation publicly. Can we take this offline?" And then, so like, I'm that guy. I've become the.
You're a Karen.
Like tech support.
No, but I get it, because I've had to be a Karen before too. With tech, especially like getting them to work, you kind of have to be the squeaky wheel every time. I will say I've had experiences where being the squeaky wheel has gotten me a brand new computer in scenarios where, like, somebody was like, "Well, you just got a dud and it's out of warranty." And you're like, "Wait, what?" So I will say, like, it is worthwhile to be the squeaky wheel financially sometimes. When you're dealing with cars or tech, you kind of have to be a dick.
And I'm not, I don't think I'm a Karen in that I'm polite. I'm not angry. Like I am screaming in my car to myself. But then when I type things, I'm professional and polite. I'm not insulting it.
You're not all capsing the whole email.
No. Yeah, it's fine.
I am loving this topic a lot. Actually, I'm pretty excited about it. But that's a cool one. I understand and relate to that quite a lot.
So anyway, that's my boring rant for the day.
That's okay. Mine's just like I'm doing armchair investments. That's my thing. I'm doing armchair micro investments. Let's see. So I've resolved to, and I don't even know if this will work, because I'm not doing like stocks with dividends, which I think is primarily what you want to do with stocks. I have no idea.
Well, it depends on what you want out of things.
So I think
I don't like the stock market.
Yeah, I don't either. And I hate the idea of gambling, but I just decided like I'm going to do some micro stock investment and see how it goes. And so I'm doing like very small percentages. Like I'm going to put in about $1 a day towards certain stock that I believe will do better. But definitely not as risky of stock, and maybe a very tiny dip into crypto, but not much because crypto is pretty volatile. I mean, like even if you're a fan of cryptocurrency, it's super volatile. It's like you can see, like even starting this, I've never really done stock trading, but it's pretty interesting because when you watch the candlesticks of crypto, it's insane. It's like within 5 minutes of a day, it'll be up like $8,000 and down $8,000. Like, like you're talking about a variation.
If you're talking about Bitcoin, sure.
Well, I'm talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about Ethereum. I'm talking about
Ethereum's not going to move $8,000 in a day, though. Ethereum.
Well, no. It's not but percentage-wise, it's very equivalent
from a percentage standpoint.
Any stock that with like every 5 or 10 minutes tends to be fluctuating by like over 20% of value. Like that's pretty wildly, like that's what I mean by volatile. It doesn't mean you can't make money doing it. It's just like that's where I get into the gambling thing where I'm like, I don't know if I'm really like I will invest a little bit when it seems to be low. But I'm not gonna put my whole bank in it. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense.
So I'm curious, why are you doing it? What do you like? Because if it's like I did a thing years ago. This is good. People are now gonna have a glimpse into the weirdness that is my financial situation. I was making a third of what I'm making now, probably. Like we were fresh out of college, scraping by multiple jobs, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I set aside like $20 a month to just play with. It was my fun money. And what I did was I ended up buying notes of other people's debt. And so like somebody would, I don't even think this is legal anymore, but at the time it was. But I would go.
So you were like a mobster just buying people's debts? I'm just kidding. Actually, it's more like a stock trader because that's similar to the that makes sense. It's like buying prepackaged loans or something.
Yeah. So what it was is it was before like Kickstarter, but it was like crowdsourced loans. So somebody would be like, holy crap, I've got 6 credit cards. This is stupid. What am I doing? And so instead of going through a debt consolidation company, they would go to one of these, they call them peer-to-peer lenders. So they go to like a peer-to-peer lender and they'd be like, hey, I need like 10 grand. And then so a bunch of people like me would get on there. And if you get enough of us to every one of us buys like $10 to $50 or whatever of the note, then you could go in there and do the thing, right? And they give you the money and then you would pay back. And if I owned a certain percentage of that loan, I would get like, 57 cents a month over the course of like, whatever, and so I did that and like in like 18 months, I can't remember the amount of money, but 18 months, I like tripled my money because I knew, the types of behaviors that would cause different things to happen and who was going to default and who was going to pay back. And like the amount of, this is where I started to get a little wary of like what people know, the amount of information that I could see as somebody potentially looking at, to invest in somebody's loan was incredible. Like I could see like how long they had been at their jobs, their past few jobs, their job history, the average, thing like that. I can see like anything that you can see in a credit history. I can see late payments. I can see defaults. I can see, how much they have in checking. I can see how, all of this type of stuff. And I would like, Holly's calling me the repo man. They were unsecured loans, so if somebody defaulted on it, you're just out money. I don't know why people wouldn't just be like, oh, thanks for the 10 grand. See ya, suckers. Because it was like some online thing. I don't know why they would pay it back. Anyway, other than it hurt their credit, but their credit already sucks. That's why they're on the site in the first place. Anyway, long story short, I did that for about a year and a half. But Um, the type of investment that I think you should actually get into, should we do the whole, like, we're not financial people, don't
Oh,
listen to it?
100%. And before that, before we get into like what it shoulds and stuff, I do want to just say like this for me is a very small experiment. That the thing that I live by, and I would recommend this for anybody, and this is not a financial expert thing, it's just being older, is don't get into credit debt, don't dip into credit debt. Like, probably at some point in your life get a credit card, but like pay it instantly. So like do micro transactions on your credit card, like where you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy a pizza and then I'm gonna pay it back to like within an hour or tomorrow, just to build up some credit. um but like I definitely wouldn't recommend being in heavy credit debt. Like don't use credit cards. Like keep your cards close to zero. And then aside from that, like saving. So I think like just saving in a basic savings account, it doesn't have to even be like some crazy package savings account that you can't open for 10 years that has a high yield, which quite often a lot of those will make you like $10, which is great. And that's $10 that just came out of nowhere for you, to not touch your account. But I'm just saying, like, in general, I think the age old advice of like save, be frugal, and like don't make a bunch of obnoxious purchases that you don't need to. Like the $5 cup of coffee you're buying could, go into savings and be something that saves your butt like down the road. And a lot of us do like really, like my wife and I, when we were in credit debt, like we had to really analyze like our spending behavior, because like while we didn't have a ton of money, it's like we had to look at it and be like, is there anywhere we can wiggle, with spending? Um, and a lot of it was that, just like watching those really small little purchases that add up. So with that being said, like I'm not doing the stock thing to make a crap load of money. I'm actually doing it just mainly out of curiosity, um, and just kind of seeing where it goes with like very low risk activities on it. And the reason I'm interested in it is it's something I can do with very micro results and just kind of build it out from there and see if it works.
But are you taking your savings and just putting it in a checking or a savings account?
Depending. I mean, some of it, yes.
Is the rest of it stuffed under your mattress?
No, I mean,
Okay.
it's just you need your basic functions.
Sure. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
savings is good. I'm just curious because
Mhm.
when I mentioned some stuff earlier off the air,
Yeah.
that's the stuff I want to talk about because you need to get in that stuff now.
Yeah, so like retirement funds and stuff would be a good idea. And I am kind of curious about that. Like I haven't really done a lot of planning on that because our step one, like my wife and I's step one in financial wisdom was like, I think the smartest thing we did was buy a house.
Sure.
A lot of people won't say that, but then some people will. But we bought at a time where the market was really low, and so we're very fortunate. In like 6 years, like that investment has doubled, like in value. So,
One of the
like,
smartest things I've done is not buy a house until the market was way down.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy a house right now. Like, frankly, I would like if somebody were like, "I'm going to buy a house," I'd be like, "Wait,
Yeah,
like
don't do that right now.
it's not a good time."
Especially in California. People are
Yeah.
paying like $300,000 over asking. That's not a good time to buy.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it would be a great time to sell,
Right.
but um but my point is like so that's probably like step one. Step two was getting out of credit debt. We had some credit debt kind of following us around for quite a few years, and quite a lot of credit debt. And so like it was literally like maybe a month ago where we got that debt to zero. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
like,
great.
and honestly, if you talk to anyone who analyzes finances, like that would be their first piece of advice. They'd be like, the
Oh yeah.
best thing you can do right now is take any extra money you have right now and put it towards credit, like to get that debt gone.
Yeah.
And so that was step two. Step three is going to be interesting, but a lot of it is kind of building up our savings to have immediate need. backup because you need that in a raw savings account. And then from there, we'll probably start looking into other options if we're ever fortunate enough to be in that position. So right now we're building just our core savings. And like I said, this is literally $1 a month thing. That's an experiment. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is you get into two things, and they're kind of wrapped up in each other. Mutual funds are really good. You find a good mutual fund, and over the course of decades, they always trend up, right? I mean, if you don't day trade a mutual fund, right? It's basically it's a group of stocks, and sometimes other investments. Like you can get REITs, which are like that's where it's like real estate investment, but you buy like a portion. Like I could own like a portion of a lot, that like Walmart is in or something, and Walmart is like renting the lot, but they're not going to like move anytime soon, and so you just get dividends on that. There's stuff like that, but like a basic mutual fund is like a group of investments, and so they'll have like some oil and some.
Yeah, I mean, I
like,
think I kind of have that through my work, right? Like we have like a profit sharing kind of system and stuff.
But do you have a profit sharing system that's invested in stocks of the company that you work at? No. Okay, so they are. So that's not profit sharing. That's profit sharing is like where they're like.
Well, no, it's from the profits of the company. There's a good chunk of the profits are given back to the employees and then invested in the market. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think it's somewhat like a mutual fund, but it's definitely not a 401k. But it's a mutual fund, I think, because if they're making certain investments, like calculated investments on a bulk scale, where it's like some of it'll go towards like commodities, some of it goes to like real estate, some of it's like everything's kind of hedged so that it's all safe bets, but they have really good returns.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a mutual? I don't know.
That's a mutual fund. Right?
Can you open your own mutual fund though? Like, is that what you're saying? Like outside of a workplace or something?
See, this is where it gets confusing. A mutual fund is also a stock.
Okay.
So you can buy stock in a mutual fund.
Oh, wait. Interesting. Okay. I got to look into that.
Yeah. So you can like Franklin, or there's big ones and little ones or whatever, but you look at the record over time.
Mm-hmm.
What I would do is just get a financial advisor and say, I would like a safe, sustainable, long-term situation. But then anyway, so that's that. The other thing is doing an IRA or a Roth IRA. Do you have one of those set up?
I have no idea. Like, this is where I am a moron. Like on a financial level, like I said, I'm pretty good at the basics and actually like fairly responsible with staying out of debt and paying debts and saving and all that. But when it comes to like complicated things like that, because I think that frankly, like my family wasn't great at those things. Yeah. And I think some of it was just because I have a lot of teachers in my family. So like a lot of that's just kind of arranged for you. Like one of the advantages of being even like a local district teacher is they have great retirement packages. So it's like you don't have to do too much of that thinking on your own. Yeah. And so I didn't really learn a ton of that. So yeah, I am fascinated. Tell me about IRAs. And by the way, is everybody in the chats down with this? I hope so, because this is what I wanted to talk about. I like talking about this stuff because I'm finally at an age where it's important to think about this stuff.
Yeah, and if you're still in your 20s or your 30s,
yeah,
you can retire with millions of dollars, even if you haven't made a lot, just by like putting a little bit away into like a mutual fund or something like that. But here's the deal with IRAs. So they're called tax sheltered annuities. Chris is saying mutual funds make it easy because they're already diversified. And that's what I like about it. I don't trust myself to know enough about stock trading to have that be part of my like retirement. But like it's it can be. I hate stocks, but like I like cryptocurrency and other weird types of investments and whatever.
Which are really it's funny that you hate stocks because they're you don't trust your own judgment, but I get what you're saying.
I hate them because I don't. I'm more interested. I think they are very volatile.
Oh yeah.
And that's not why I dislike them. I dislike them because I don't want to read Forbes.
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to
agree with that.
I don't want to read the stuff that I need to read
or like just sit and look at like a chart all day where you're just waiting and being like, oh, like you don't want to day trade. Like that would be a nightmare. Plus you have to make a crap load of money.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in the type of research that I would need to do to be able to be successful at stocks. But cryptocurrency, which environmentally is a huge problem, but I think they're going to fix that. They're going to go to proof of stake rather than whatever it was now, proof of work, I think, which will help. And Ethereum is moving towards that, and everything seems to be based on Ethereum except for whatever else, but Bitcoin and whatnot. But anyway, what am I saying? So, I pushed a button.
So you were talking about like a Roth IRA and kind of
so tax sheltered annuities, they work one of two ways. In the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA are the inverse of each other.
Oh, by the way, also after this conversation, when we're off air, maybe send me a couple mutual funds that you might recommend.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm invested in because I literally just found a guy that I like that I trust.
Oh, okay.
And then I just tell him like, this is my comfort level with risk, and these are my retirement plans. This is when I want to retire.
I love it.
And then he kind of does like a bunch of that. So Holly's saying Vanguard makes making a Roth pretty easy.
Interesting.
And so you can set up your own Roth IRA, and there's different things like Vanguard and others that will help you do that. And you can do all kinds of things inside of Roth. Here's the cool thing about a Roth. It's a tax sheltered annuity, which means that it's something that you can put money into, and you get to choose whether you do a traditional or whether you do a Roth, I can't remember which one's which, but one of them you get taxed on the money up front. So there's two types of taxes that you're going to deal with when you're talking about investments. One type is that it lowers your taxable income. So if I'm making just to say easy money, right? If I'm making, we'll do round numbers like $100,000 a year or whatever, just because 100 is a round number. But that puts me in a certain tax bracket that's got a higher thing, and I donate to charities and I invest and I write stuff off. I can lower that down so I'm in a different tax bracket, right? You can do that if you're in, if you're making $50,000 a year or something, and maybe you want to have a taxable income that's like 37,000. So I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers around. You lower that number down so that your taxable income is lower. So that's one option, is that your Roth IRA is taxed when you take it out, but not it lowers your taxable income at the point that you invest it. But then any gains that you get over the long term, those are taxed as income.
So the money in the Roth is giving you gains through the market, but it's untaxable. Like if you choose to pay the taxes up front, then you're not having to pay what's it called, capital gains taxes. Basically.
Right. So the other way of doing it.
By the way, that's part of why I got interested in dipping a little bit into stocks. To me, I think if there's a time for somebody who's a nobody who doesn't know stocks to possibly purchase stocks, and keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. This is what I'm looking at. I saw a freak out. I just was curious about stocks like a day before, and then I saw this complete freak out when Biden announced that he was going to tax capital gains, and like a bunch of people just started freaking out and mass selling shares. Yep. So there was like this massive drop in the market like 4 days ago, and I was like, I'm buying stocks. Like I'm buying a bunch of these because this is going to come back. Like it was weird. Like Tesla was like way under, and then they were double freaked out because of a news article about a car fire. So I was like, I'm gonna buy some of these, like very small percentages, like $5 here, $5 there. And what was funny was I literally saw like the next day the market just went whoop, and I was like, oh my gosh, for like $5 I got stocks that are worth like 20, because I saw that window, and I realized that's going to happen again when the capital gains thing starts going through Congress. And so I was just saying, if there is a time to buy as the little guy, that might be the time, because all the big guys are going to sell off. And so you're going to have like crazy shares of like Amazon and like these giant companies that are fairly like somewhat stable investments at like ridiculously low prices because people freak out about the press. So I don't get me wrong, I don't view myself as a financial expert, but it doesn't take a genius to like think like one Tesla car fire doesn't mean the end of Tesla. But for people who are like really, really risk averse, like they'd be like, oh, I got to pull all my stocks, you know? So I don't know. I'm going to play at it for about a year, just putting in about $1 a day and see where that goes. But I like this idea of a Roth. I like the idea of a lot of these things, you know?
Yeah. So let me tell you about the other one. The other one is the inverse of that, where you get taxed up front with the income tax, but you don't get taxed as you take it out. So if you put a long-term investment in, and then at the end of it, you know, let's say that you've made, you know, like 5 to 15% over the course of 35 years or something, that's gonna end up being a significant number. You can take that out at 65 tax-free without capital gains.
Yeah. I mean, I think both are really interesting and intriguing. I will say, like, yeah, I mean, I do think probably a mutual fund or a Roth would be smart, because then you're kind of using collective power to sort of hire people who know the market a little better.
Yeah.
I will say, and this is just to kind of hedge what we're saying, is like it's all risk. Weirdly enough, like a lot of people will even, you know, years ago, and I would kind of agree with this in general, is like generally the most stable investment you can do is a house. But I mean, if you look at the housing crash
until 2008.
Yeah. So if you look at the housing crash, it's like that's not really all that stable. So it's all kind of risk. But there's definitely calculated risks that are less risky and definitely lead to a lot more reward. I got to look into that. I just don't really particularly like. We have a tax guy who we've had for years, and I could possibly talk to you about this.
Yeah.
But it's also expensive to have a guy do that. So
how expensive?
Probably not. Compared to the gain, I'm sure it's like not that much. But point being, just it'll be interesting. I gotta look into it.
Because I pay less than $300 to have somebody a year to have somebody like take a look at everything, and it's always I always get way more back.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Doing it myself.
I get that. But like I said, you know, it'll be interesting. But I definitely need to look into it. So anyway. Our main concern right now is just to build our primary savings, so we're kind of covered if like the car crashes or something.
Oh yeah, none of what we're talking about matters if you have to immediately go into credit card debt to fix a problem, because problems will happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we're kind of in a position where we're building that. And I will say very proudly that everything my wife and I have built, including buying a house, was bought by Art, and not That's like rad. Not through That's anything cool. But Art. Like it was literally all commercial Art that bought that. And I take pride in that, because a lot of people might have 401ks and stuff built up by this age, but they didn't build it through Art. And I think that's something to be proud of. And I will say also, just to anybody who's watching this who's an artist, it's like, you know, if you guys are making financially sound decisions and investing while you're doing it, good for you. I was mainly just trying to figure out a way to make it work where we could make a living doing it in the first place. And I will say also, while I'm a fan of saving, I'm also not a fan of hoarding. So I do think like the most important thing you can do in life is sort of take care of the immediate and take care of the future, but not like, you know, necessarily like focus on acquiring like vast amounts of wealth. However, if you happen to acquire some wealth, I also think that can be really helpful to the people around you, to your family, you know, and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes financial sense to donate to charity, but also like you should help people.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's something we just kind of do. So you kind of should do. But like, I also understand, like, hey, if it's like a matter of like, hey, this dollar goes to charity or it goes to like the food in my kid's mouth, like, you know, maybe you feed your kid first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, I'm excited about it. And like, I feel kind of idiotic for not knowing about any of this stuff. I think it's partially because I had worked outside of any sort of office or corporate environment for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to freelance, it's like, it's good advice, but it's just one of those things you don't really hear like your coworkers talk about, like retirement and stuff, you know?
Right.
Which you should. Because at some point, like, our hands are going to fail. I've already experienced that last year, right? Where it's like, and you've had hand issues too, you know, where it's like the hand stops working, stops functioning. It's like it is important to like try to, plan for that. I will also say I've met plenty of people who planned and saved, and then they died. So,
yep,
you know, there's a fine balance.
I knew a guy that he had a ridiculous amount of money put away, and he was making the same thing I was. We were making like mid 40s, and but he was just a miser about it. And he woke up one day and was like, "Dude, I think I'm doing this wrong." And I'm like, "Why? You have like $500,000 in investments and in the bank, you know?" And he's like, "Yeah, but like I haven't done anything fun with my kids, you know, like we don't go on vacations, or like, you know, you own a kayak. We don't own anything." I'm like, "What do your kids do for fun?" And I don't know. We just kind of like, I don't know what they do for fun. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, maybe back off that a little bit, you know, and have go to Disneyland, you know, go spend $200 at Walmart and buy a kayak, you know, like do something fun, you know, like." But yeah, that was one of those examples where I was like, I was kind of envious of him. I'm like, man, that the discipline that it takes and the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I could never like put that much money away. But I realize it's because like I play with my family, you know, like we do fun things. And we're not like going into debt to do those things, but we are like, I don't have $500,000 in the bank because I've like just scrimped and saved and miserly put everything away.
Yeah. And
could have gone to memories and whatever.
I will also say this, like there's a huge, especially in California, like there's a huge problem of wealth gaps, and not not necessarily like wealth gaps because like I'm more talking about like wealth gaps in the mindset of people who are sort of spending, like, so consumers. I think one really important thing for people to just kind of accept is like, while it might be cool to like lease a BMW, right? Like, because you could probably lease a BMW for the same car payment that you'd be making on like a Honda Civic, right? But at the end of your car payments for your Honda Civic, you own it. At the end of the lease, you're going to be out money and have absolutely nothing, you know? And at some point, that payment's just going to get ridiculous. That payment goes away when you're buying it, right?
This is where you and I have differed a little bit, because I've driven disposable cars most of my life.
Well, disposable cars are fine too, right? Like as an example, because at least you own them. But my point is like leasing is just like but I see it a lot in LA because people want to drive their nice car, right? Like they want to drive like a really sweet car and look rich. And like that to me, that's like a really important thing, is like, I think the idea of like looking wealthy is a really foolish one.
That'll bankrupt you more than anything else.
Yeah. And I like, to me,
if you want to do well in life financially, come to grips with the fact that you're not going to look wealthy.
Yeah. And honestly, be okay with like, you know, like making frugal decisions, not like, you know, miserly decisions like we just made the distinction of earlier. But I think like just frugal decisions of like, you know, for somebody who makes, like, I have friends who make like 5 times as much as I do, right? For those friends to do like a vacation to Europe is a different game than for me to do a vacation to Europe. It doesn't mean I can't, But it's just like, I shouldn't probably assume that I'm going to be able to do that as often as they are. Right.
I have friends that do that type of stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm always just like,
I get bored. I hate vacation.
I'd rather do something else more frequently than do some big giant thing like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the two things that I wanted to talk about: is mutuals and
I love it.
tax sheltered annuities.
Well, in the meantime, I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with like these micro investments, because I'm not, like I said, I'm probably not buying enough stock to be like very effective at gaining money with stock, because like I said, it's literally like I'm kind of doing a little bit here and there in probably too broad of things. Like I'm kind of like, that's down and that'll be up, so I'll get a little bit of that. And I've been just kind of doing that for the last few days. So we'll see how it goes, because I'm no financial expert, and I'm definitely not the type of person to have the patience to kind of read a bunch of financial journals on a daily basis.
Let me ask you this. If you're doing it because it's fun, it would probably be better to stick to like super volatile stuff.
Oh yeah, well no, I'm dipping a little in that. I'm not keeping it away from that, but here's the thing. I'm still risk averse. So like even the way I'm going about the volatile stuff is like in a risk averse way, because I know it's weird, but it's like, here's the thing I take risks in investment on, the thing I'm doing right now. This is my investment risk. Like I do comics. that is
Right.
an investment risk. It's a massive amount of time, and comics take forever, and the possibility of return is very slim, but that's the investment risk I take, you know?
Well, the reason I say that though is your losses would be exactly the same. Your potential losses would be exactly the same, but your potential gains would be significantly higher, and it's just as fun, right? So if you're doing it because you're like, I'm kind of curious about that, right? I think it'd be better to like, just like do what you did. Like, oh, I'm seeing a giant dip because everybody's freaking out.
Yeah.
Buy then. That's good.
Do you think if like years ago you had bought like stock in Amazon when it was like,
Sure.
$1 a share or something?
Right.
Do you really think like you'd have an equal likelihood of that doing well as you would of like buying Bitcoin at the right time? I mean, you'd have like a crap load more money if you bought Bitcoin and you played it right, but I think the risk is a little different,
Oh, the risk is massively different. But if you're looking to,
but the reward's different.
Like you said, play, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing, if it's play money, if it's like, $5 here or there, $1 here or there. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are certain things that have like the volatility to be like I can notice, like I trade one cryptocurrency and it's basic attention token. And I can see from day to day, like, because I just watch the one thing. I don't watch the market. I don't even understand all of the different things, whatever, but I understand this one, and I know when it feels high and when it feels low. Because I just watch the one thing.
Yeah, you can definitely see, like, I will say that with crypto, it's pretty clear when it's going in a downward direction and when it's going up, and it happens very quickly. But if you jump on it, it can be pretty cool.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is like, if you're watching that, you can turn that into something pretty fast.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I think I might play with that a little more, but like I said, my goal is not to lose a bunch of money. So while it might be play money, I'm doing it in a way that effectively minimizes risk to where I won't lose my shirt on it, or even potentially lose that money, So
what Chris is saying, I want to point this out. This is my investment strategy, is just I set it and forget it, right? I go to HR and I say, take this percentage out of my paycheck. And then when you give me a cost of living raise at the end of the year, add that percentage to what you take out, so that by the next couple of years, it'll be a huge percentage, but I won't notice the difference. And then just put it in this type of thing. And you let me know when that changes, and I'll let you know, as I kind of every year I go in and talk to the people in HR, like, like if you work at a company that's big enough, this is the first time I've done that, by the way. I have never worked at a company that's large enough to do this. They'll have like a person that's just there to help you with your retirement.
Well, especially if you're working at a university.
Right.
I will say, like, one of the big advantages to university jobs is they tend to have great retirement packages and plans and great financial advisors.
Yeah. And I have never had that before. So that's kind of cool that I can just like run up there and be like, hey, I don't know what's happening. Can you explain it to me? And they're like, sure. That's
yeah, I like the idea of that, and I definitely am going to have to look into it because I think it might be something that I could do in a similar fashion where it's like I'm just putting a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah,
but I also.
But then like, the other thing that we're talking about with like crypto and stuff, day trading and whatever, I think stock market day trading is you might as well just flush your money down the toilet because there's always somebody that's going to be way more read, way more invested, way more.
Oh yeah.
Understands way more about that than I do.
Yeah, I'm not planning on day trading. Like that's the other thing. I am just kind of dipping into right now. What I'm doing is just kind of buying small shares of stocks that are marked low when I can foresee them having a higher value and pretty safe stocks, like things like actually during that whole freak out, I bought a bunch of Netflix, not like tons, like $10 worth or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's already up like, 50% or something because it was like a freak out about Netflix and Sony in the news. But I mean, in general, like Netflix has been fairly stable for like quite a while now. So it wouldn't be a shock if they bounce back. It'd be a little surprising if they couldn't. Although, I think they're going to have more competition. They may not generate revenues, but the shares were like at like half their value like a couple days ago. And like, that's not the kind of dip I see, personally. So to me, that didn't seem like a risky investment. It's like, I'll sit on that. I'll get that share at a really low cost, and then I'll sit on it for a year or so and see what happens.
But here's the thing: if you're going to
sit on it for like 10 years or so.
But if you're going to do that type of thing, right? And you see an unusual spike, sell a quarter of your stocks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it goes up like 20% or something, I'll sell it,
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, if it's at an unusual low, I'm going to buy it. And that's my thought is like, I don't want to do day trading, but I'll keep an eye on it and just kind of play with it and see what can happen. I do like the idea of doing something a little more stable and long-term as well. So, yeah, it's not a bad idea. So yeah, I like the idea of diversifying it too, doing a little bit in like maybe food and commodities and maybe housing and at some point maybe metals or something. I don't know. So we'll see. But I like the idea of Roth IRA because then I could not have to focus on it myself.
Yeah. So it depends. If you're doing it for fun, I'd go crypto. And I would just pick one of them and not Bitcoin. And then just play with it. If you see it go up or down, you can do it on your phone. You can just be like, buy, sell, at lunch, in the afternoon, you can, I have a little notification just pops up. It's fun. It's a terrible way to do investment, but I mean, you can turn like $50 into $500 pretty quickly over the course of like a couple months.
And you can do the reverse very quickly too.
Sure.
Just yeah, but I totally agree.
So yeah.
I like that. I hope this was interesting to people. I also realize I think actually a lot of people have more knowledge of that sort of like retirement plan type thing than I do. Because like I said, it's something I haven't really considered too much except in the last few years,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about it other than I think I've said everything I know about it.
I like it. It sounds like sound advice and wise advice, and I think it's cool. I will say Cory's dead on in the sense of, and I know like this is going to be like ringing a gong to like a younger person, but it's like, dude, if you're in your 20s and you can put away savings, you can put away like, some stocks or like open an IRA or like even maybe start your own 401k or something. Like doing something like that is not something you'll regret later in life. So,
I'll tell you.
The earlier you do that, the earlier you'll be able to be like, okay, I'm retiring and I'm still going to work, but I'm making an income without having to work, which is great.
I'll tell you some interesting things that most people don't mention when they talk about stuff like this. You can take a loan out of your Roth IRA and you can loan yourself money from your investment and it's still protected. And then you can pay it back with interest. And the only downside to that is you're not gaining during the time that you pay that back. And so it can also work like a bit of a checking account.
Yep. I love
which is kind of weird. But anyway.
Yeah, I love it. I'd also say just in your 20s, just in general, like having a savings account with like no special thing, just a savings account that you're just putting like $3 a day into or something, like it adds up a lot, and it's not a bad idea to build up a savings that you just pretend doesn't exist and you just drop money into. That's the unaccruing interest way, but at the same time, it's like at bare minimum, like even if you do that, you'll be in a better position, I think, in life.
Oh yeah. Well, and then when your furnace blows up or your wife gets pregnant, you don't expect it. there's that stuff.
Oh, 100%. And that's the fund we're kind of building ourselves right now, is like that furnace blows up fund. I also will say, man, there's like, it doesn't hurt sometimes to get some of that home insurance because my wife very wisely got like home insurance on our water heater.
Yeah.
And it basically covers like some minimum payments on like some minimum changes for like the water heater, the gas line, and I think and it goes a little beyond just our mortgage, right? Insurance. And so our water heater needed replacement and it cost us like $100.
Yeah.
Installation, everything, like brand new water heater.
I've benefited from buying houses that have insurance as part of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bought this house and we just were like, hey, throw in some, throw in some insurance. And they're like, okay. Because it doesn't cost them much. It's part of their like closing cost or whatever. And then the furnace literally blew up. Like it literally blew up like a week after we bought the house.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, if it's going to blow up, that's when it's going to blow up.
Okay, so I don't know if you're planning on working any longer. I want to get this background done on this, so I might be up for a little bit longer. But we have reached that hour mark, and for anyone who's familiar with my channel, they probably know what I do at the hour mark, which is I need to take a very brief break and get a coffee refill. So
yeah, I'm going to be up for just a couple more minutes because I've got just one more of these to do, and then I need to go to bed because I have 8 o'clock class tomorrow.
Sounds like we align. So, because this background shouldn't take too long either. So I'll be right back. Cory, feel free to plug your stuff. And I do encourage you guys to check out that Instagram post that Cory did. It is very hilarious. And it reminds me of the fact that what I need to do at some point on a weekend is go through some of the live streams and pull like highlights. I think that would be a smart idea because that is cool. All right. I'll be back in shortly.
See you in a moment. I don't have anything to... You guys already know all my stuff, but yeah. Gary's saying if you're in your 20s and you have money, just better get a Roth IRA or something. The challenge is, this is where the world isn't fair. When you're in your 20s, you're so broke. And then hopefully you're building income as you get older, but like, I had no money when I graduated college. It took me years to pay off my bachelor's. Probably part of it because I was stupid, and part of it because I just wasn't making any money. But anyway, yeah. So they say that, but there we go. But the challenge is that, when you have the most impact on your life in investing, you have the least income. I don't know. This is the old guy in me. I also see a lot of students doing the weirdest stuff with their money. And I don't say anything because it's not my place. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. But it's like, really? You're gonna go out to eat every day for lunch rather than packing a sandwich? Because that is a lot of money. Okay. That's just me being an old man. Good. That follows that perfectly. Okay. So I'm going to change that to be white.
Oh, on the Bitcoin front. I do need to get coffee refill, but I was going to say, I just checked too. And just for fun, I bought some of those like Doge coins. That is literally an investment I plan to just see disappear. But it's a funny meme. And I believe in the power of funny memes, so I bought a couple of those, like 10 of them or something, and was like, this is pretty awesome. And they've already accrued in value. I could sell them, but I'm like, no, actually, that's one I'm just gonna sit on just because it's funny. And I'll probably, anytime it's low, I'll probably buy more because and it's the most useless. This is not at all financial advice. I'd advise against it because it's the most useless crypto in the world, because the thing about cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, even like the argument for it is pretty compelling because it has a limited resource value. So no matter, like, this is disregarding all the concerns about the cost of the environment on any of this stuff, but it's like they actually have no limit to like how much they can make of it. So it literally takes away the rarity factor. Like the thing that makes Bitcoin valuable is the fact that it's actually a rare commodity that you have to mine, and there's a limited amount. There's supply and demand to it.
Wait, Doge isn't Doge isn't blockchain?
I think it's blockchain, but it doesn't have to be mined.
Well,
so I think it's its own like kind of nerdy blockchain, I guess. Like from what I've read about it, I think that's the part where they're like, it's never going to take off like quite like Ethereum or Bitcoin because like they can mint more. But yeah. I love the meme and I think it's funny, and I think there's a power to humor. I think there might be a potential to make money on it, but in general, that is just literally like humor to me, and I think it's funny. So I don't know. I think everybody, just for humor, not giving financial advice, but I'm saying for humor's sake, I think if the internet just made Dogecoin worth a crap load of money, that would be so funny.
I think it will, just because I just think everybody wants to screw over like Wall Street and everything, since we've been screwed over by them forever.
Yeah, and I mean it's also funny, and I think the neat thing, this ties into one of my main reasons for liking doing the micro investing thing, is like I like the idea that I can be like looking at the market and being like, Netflix is down, but like I've enjoyed Netflix and I'm not necessarily enjoying the latest thing, but I also realize like as a consumer, like most of what I like about their original stuff is their programming that's like live action, and we're in a pandemic, so we've had a limit in the live action that they've released. But like Umbrella Academy is great. I like a lot of their content. So, and I love their crazy documentaries. So I'm more like, I got some Netflix when it was down, not as like a stock market person, but as a person who's like just rationally, like what's the, like Tiger King. Like if Tiger King happens again, the market's going to freak out and they're going to be looking at numbers and not realizing like the internet just likes really cool documentaries, and so to me, I like the idea that like I, as like a nobody, can get like, 0.0 whatever shares and like have a say in like whether or not that company fails, because like they make good stuff and they've made good stuff, I think that is a cool thing about like the micro investing thing that's coming down the pipeline for sure. It like can make stocks stay up that really technically shouldn't, and I like that.
I would watch out for Robinhood, by the way.
Yeah. How so?
Well, they kind of screwed everybody over.
Oh, on the shorting with the
Yeah.
it's weird though because I read more into that and a lot of that was
No, I understand.
people.
I understand it wasn't nefarious, but still the fact that they did it.
Yeah, I mean that was just more for funding.
Right.
Like from what I've read, but it is funny because optically it definitely had an impact, I think.
But they didn't shut it all down, and they didn't shut down buying it. They just shut down selling one stock.
Yeah, that is
And
a little
yeah,
suspicious.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of screwed people over, but
yeah, I mean, I could see that. That's interesting though. Like the more I've looked into it, the more it seemed like I can't remember. I don't know the full facts on it, but I do remember kind of doing a deep dive on it a bit ago, and it was pretty clear that they weren't specifically targeting that stock.
but that's the one that they locked.
Yeah, but I think it was broader. I think it had to do with like needing more funding to be able to finance the loans. So I don't know if that makes sense. But it's like when you're a smaller company.
It did have to do with funding, but I think it specifically was just GameStop.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Stock. Now I'm curious. Yeah, that's the thing. Chris was saying it's silly, but Dogecoin has grown 5 times over the year to its 25% price now. Yeah, I totally have friends who bought some when it was like 4 cents.
Yeah.
And they literally bought it as a meme, and I am a big fan of that kind of thing. I will say though, like I would do a little bit of reading about that, just that, and make sure that the reading you're doing. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Cory, but I'm just saying like a lot of the sites that were having outrage over that were very, like uninformed about some of the drivers. Like a lot of them even presented like the whole thing as like the man sticking it to a big corporation, not realizing that like a lot of the people who were propagating the whole GameStop thing were people who were looking to short sellers and not like in a like to screw them over, but just to make a crap load of money kind of way. Right. And so it's like it's a fun narrative that was like on the news where it's like, oh, there's these Robinhood types and they're using this app to like screw the man, and then the app screwed them, and it's like it's an easy narrative, but in a weird way, like the more I read about it, and I'll have to like kind of look into it again, but the more I read about it, it seemed pretty clear cut. Like it's just a business that was getting more orders than they could process or finance, and so they needed to get more financing, you know. But I get it, and I still think
that's what they said.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not talking about what the company said. I'm just saying like it'll be interesting, but I should look into it a little more. But I would say like look at some sites that weren't like necessarily propagating the whole like small guy versus the big guy narrative.
I'm just going mainly off of Philip DeFranco, his reporting of that, because he was sponsored by them. And I feel like he has pretty even reporting most of the time on like the facts, and he'll correct himself when he's wrong and whatever, but that's about as much research as I've done on it. So
okay, so I would look outside of that. I just look outside of that a little bit.
No, but I mean, he dropped his sponsorship with them because of the research that he did.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, I'd maybe look outside of just that one source. You know what I mean? Like just to see, because let's see.
I want that to move a little bit. Well, but yeah, I mean, normally I would, but I just don't. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Like it doesn't. It doesn't affect anything. I wasn't using them before. I'm not going to use them now. So, I mean, normally I'm all about like digging deep or whatever, but there's only so many things I can dig deep about and on. So I have limited amounts of time. So I actually just don't really care that much about Robinhood.
Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah. I'm not defending it either because, like I said, I don't have a dog in that fight really. But it's saying that they actually froze GME and other securities to clearing firm costs. So it wasn't just Robin. It wasn't just um. So yeah, they froze like more than just GameStop.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Anyway.
Yeah, Chris is saying that it was driven by Reddit, and I know that. I know like Reddit was the driver of it, but everybody was using Robinhood as the investment vehicle.
Yeah, and it's great, and like I do think a lot of those Reddit users were like sincerely trying to kind of like take out like like the big guys, and I actually I always side with that. Like I always am a fan of like the idea of like taking down the corporate power, you know, with like individuals collectively. Like that's why I like unions, you know, like but it's like it's just a little murkier is all I'm getting at, you know. Like I was surprised by that because when I like you know I listen to like Young Turks occasionally and stuff like that, and even on very left leaning news, a lot of people were reporting it as like the small guy versus the big guy. So I got a little shocked. Personally, I got shocked a little bit. So, was it GME that is GameStop? Let's see. No, I'm curious.
Dang it. That looks terrible.
Anyhow, that's fascinating. I got to look into it. Oh, okay. Interesting. That is crazy though. Like and it is a little creepy because it's I guess it was like Webull, M1, Public. Like there's a bunch of different sites that also suspended trading. That is a little creepy. I got to look into that more because I could be wrong. That is interesting.
Yeah, it's weird for sure.
Because I don't like the rigged system part of finance, and that kind of sucks. And I definitely believe in that, like in the idea that there's a fairly rigged system.
Yeah,
you know, and I get it. I mean, it makes sense. It's like power likes protecting itself. You know,
right.
I think that's one of the interests of artists is like to try to kind of find a way around the corporate system because it just doesn't quite work for art. Let's see. She was saying, I wonder if it's NFTs rather than crypto. I'm fascinated by NFTs. The only reason I am at all curious about NFTs is because they sound like a pyramid scheme, to be honest. But
You're talking about the percentage that you get back after the fact?
Well, it's just the investment you have to put in to make an NFT is pretty suspect because it's like a traditional structure for a pyramid scheme is like, hey, if you spend this money, then like it, helps. And then, you get a couple people to spend this money and then some of that goes to you. And then at the end of the day, like the people who win are like the people at the top. And it seems very structured in that way. However, I have a couple designs that have gone like more viral than me. And that makes me slightly curious, but I'm not like invest money. Like I said, I'm risk averse. So I'm not like invest hundreds of dollars to find out if that suspicion is correct kind of guy. And that's the problem is like I think from what it looks like you're kind of throwing in at least a couple $100 just to make an NFT. I will say I am curious because like Captain Obvious, or the like Puppet Checkup, I'm like, I could probably sell that in a market, because it's like everywhere. So I could probably do it. I don't know, but I'd have to know more about it and also be in a scenario where I don't have to lose out of hundreds of bucks, So
yeah, that makes sense. I think NFTs are interesting. I understand why everybody's pissed about them.
I don't see a reason to be pissed. I just like I understand people get pissed because people don't like the idea of images having value.
No, it's not. I don't think they're pissed about that. I think they're pissed about the um, sorry, I'm doing math while I'm talking. I think they're pissed about the environmental concerns, which are huge concerns, and are, you know, there's some big problems. But yeah, and then Holly's bringing up. So Holly's. Oh no, sorry, Gary. I looked at the wrong name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I don't know about crypto in terms of environmental impact. I wonder if it's just going to be NFTs.
I think
And then,
NFTs might end up having a similar impact.
well, NFTs are based on blockchain. They're based on Ethereum,
Yeah.
which is one of the biggest cryptos. But the environmental concerns plus the illegal use just turns me off. That's what Gary's saying. It's interesting because
the illegal use is an issue, though.
There are people out there that are just grabbing images that haven't been minted or whatever they're called or whatever.
Yeah, like
case in point, pretending like they're theirs.
Yeah, case in point, like if like because Puppet Checkup went viral, I wouldn't be shocked to find out if there was an NFT of it. Like I've seen, you know, sites like you know, like Chinese websites that sell T-shirts like sell that as their own.
Right.
So I don't see why that wouldn't be an issue with NFTs. And then you're talking about like copyright protection, like who's liable for selling a false NFT, and then are they liable to, like, do they owe you money at the end? Like there's a lot of
they should, because there's damages. I mean, you can
yeah,
you can state specific loss in the marketplace. That's the one thing the courts can track. But it also depends, because if you're looking at copyright infringement, it also depends if you have that registered or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you own the copyright to every image that you create, but you can't sue for damages unless you've registered that copyright with the government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can, but it depends. Like it's a little stickier than that. Like if you have proof of publication, you have a strong case, but it's never going to be as strong as registering directly with the government. So that because at the end of the day, like technically, legally, you don't need it registered to sue if you made it. But in a court of law, like it's almost like technically you don't have to like there's certain things that help prove intent in a murder case, right?
Yeah.
Technically you don't have to have those things, but the idea of getting the call that you need to have done in court is a lot stronger if you can prove intent, right? It's kind of a similar thing where it's like with copyright, like you own the copyright by the nature of the first publication of that, you know, but and the creation of it, of course.
I actually think statutory damages can't be awarded unless it's a registered copyright. I took a class on this. You own the copyright, but I think if you want to be awarded damages financially from the court, you have to have that registered. I've got to look into it a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure you can sue regardless, either way. But I think actual damages or the losses suffered by the copyright owner as the result of infringement can only be done with a registered copyright.
That's interesting.
It is, and it sucks. It's like it's actually. I actually think it's like one of those things that some lobbyist somewhere screwed over artists again and we didn't notice.
Yeah, it's so sad too, because I keep seeing, actually, I think you might be right on that. That's interesting. Can you enforce an unregistered? By not registering copyright in a work would be short-sighted and not recommended for anyone wanting to enforce it. You can't bring a lawsuit for copyright, however, without a certificate of registration from the Copyright Office. Oh, okay. There are ways you can indisputably prove your intellectual property by the date and time on computer files, emailing to yourself or your friend, or like mailing it to yourself and sending yourself a hard copy in the post. That's an old school way, and I think that's harder to enforce.
Yep.
So that's the point. Is like I think it's about strength in as a case in the court of law, and it's definitely better. But you can make them stop, but you can't win any money from suing.
I'll tell you a trick that I haven't.
Luckily,
done yet,
like most of those I made were already registered through the companies I work with, you know. So.
Right. So one of the things that's helpful to know that I haven't done yet, but I should do that this week. You can copyright a collected work, and everything in there has an individual registered copyright because it's part of that collected work.
Mm-hmm.
And your website can be considered a collective work. And so if once a year you go in and register a copyright with the government of your website, then anything that you post to your website would be collected in that work and would be considered registered with the government. You can sue for damages.
Mm-hmm. And another thing to keep in mind that's a little fact like most people don't like is the fact that like you are going to have a hell of a time suing another country.
Yeah.
And lawsuits are really expensive. It's a weird thing. It's like I think there's a misunderstanding about that with like libel and stuff like that, like where people have this idea that just because you have a legal case, like it's going to be beneficial to sue, and 9 times out of 10 it's not worth it, like because lawsuits are so expensive. So like for instance, even if you got the copyright with the government, the process of suing needs to be able to equate to the cost of suing.
Okay, so Gary's asking an interesting question with this. Could somebody therefore put someone's unregistered work on their website and suddenly have copyright to it? No. You own the copyright on inception. So as soon as you create it, you own the copyright, and so somebody else doesn't have the ability to put that on their site without your express permission to do that, because you own the license to display.
But you have to have some kind of way of proving that you created it. So like that's where publication becomes really important. So like Cory was saying, like a website or whatever, it's like as long as you have documented proof that you made it, like that. But that becomes harder and harder to prove, you know, like the less information you have. The easiest way to prove it is have it registered, right? So yeah.
But, I mean, I don't have $25 for every image I make.
Mm-hmm.
That's expensive. I don't even know what it is, but I'll look into it. I'll make a video about that.
Yeah, I'm curious about the depth on it, because I was under the impression that you can, but I could be 100% wrong on that. So,
well, I don't think you can.
It looks like it's looking
Chris is
like
agreeing with me. He's saying you can make them stop, but you can't win any money. But I'm gonna do some research and make a video about what it's like to register your website as a with the government, because then everything that you do within that is collected and copyrighted. And I think the forms are free. I think the registration fee is, I mean, last time I heard, which is 3 years ago, I think it was like $25 or something. So I'll do that. I'll do a little thing. But I am done, and I have an 8 o'clock class in the morning. So I'm going to pop this in and spit it out, and then we'll wrap that up.
All right. Well, I love it. I think I'm about to wrap. I do love where this went, and I'm kind of curious about more curious about that too. I need to do more reading on it. I have finished my panel, so this was a successful after show. So this was for anybody watching, this was the after party for the Indie Review Show. If you guys are curious, go to IRSagency.com. And you can check out the latest review where we went over Black Hole, which is a great horror comic by Charles Burns. As a heads up, be prepared for some violence, some censored nudity. Like, I don't show all the nudity in it, but on the video, but still, some pretty heavy subject matters and drug use. So it's definitely a heavy book. I'm glad we got through it. I feel better for it. And yeah, go check it out and let us know what you think. And make sure you subscribe too to our YouTube channel. You can find it very easily just by searching in YouTube for IRS, or not IRS, I'm sorry, search for Indie Review Show in YouTube, and make sure you're subscribed to that so you can get notified when that's about to go live. And that being said, anything else we want to? I mean, definitely go check out Cory Cruz's Instagram. Help keep my book, 2 Stories, on the top 100 literary graphic novels on Amazon by ordering it, and maybe do me a favor and send out a tweet or a Facebook post about 2 Stories, trying to get somebody else to order it and support that indie book. So is there anything else? Did I miss anything before we close out? Oh, Mama Soto just joined. We just had the beginnings of the Night Gang. And I'd say like half the Night Gang's here, and yet we have to come to a close, which is a sad shame. But thanks for stopping by, Mama Soto. Anything I missed before we close out?
No, do me a big favor and go comment on that. Go comment on that Instagram post that I made, the most recent one. That would be awesome.
All right, guys. Night Gang and IRS agents, thank you for helping that out, and that'll do it. We will see you guys. Oh no,
man, everybody's showing up. We just saw Ronnie too.
This is why I do the late night streams, but I'm usually up later. It's just I was moving furniture and stuff all day, so I have no energy to do a longer one. But I will say I'll try to do another live stream like tomorrow or the next. So yeah, thanks to everybody who joins these things. It's awesome, and we will see you guys on the next Indie Review Show, and probably on an occasional stream or two, because Cory and I have been known to do that. All right, guys. Have a good day. Night. Good day, night, day. Oh, man, I need sleep. Bye.
Let me do